Okay, so you've given us this fantastic source this time, Cinema, the Magic Vehicle. It's a guide to classic cinema.
That's right. And it really frames early films, not just as entertainment, but as products of their specific time, the politics, the culture shaping them.
Absolutely. So our mission today, using this guide, is to tackle a real behemoth of early cinema.
We're diving into D.W. Griffith's 1916 epic, Intolerance. It's one of the most ambitious, maybe confusing, definitely groundbreaking films ever made.
It really feels like a turning point, doesn't it? The moment cinema sort of found its language.
Exactly. This film, for all its complexities, helped define the visual vocabulary we still use.
And the ambition is just staggering when you look at the numbers. The source calls it the high point of early blockbusters.
So absolutely blockbuster. The scale was, unprecedented. Publicity back then was throwing around figures like $2 million for the budget.
$2 million in 1916. That sounds, astronomical.
It was, and probably inflated for hype. Yeah.
So what's the real number, roughly?
Well, more realistic estimates figure it was closer to $700,000, which, is still enormous.
Right. What would that be today? Any idea?
You're looking at something like $12 million in today's money. It was a gigantic risk.
And he could only take that risk because of The Birth of a Nation, right? His previous hit.
Precisely. That film, despite all the controversy, was a massive financial success. Griffith basically funneled that capital, that energy, straight into Intolerance.
So he used one massive film to fund an even more massive artistic statement, because it wasn't just about size, was it?
No, not at all. The core idea, the whole point, was this huge four-part structure. Our source calls it a quadripartite protest.
A protest against intolerance, basically, in all its forms.
Yes, exactly. Social injustice, political oppression, moral hypocrisy. Griffith wanted to show it was this timeless, universal problem.
And he did that by telling 4 completely separate stories.
4 stories from vastly different eras, thousands of years apart, but crucially told at the same time, interwoven.
Okay, let's unpack those 4, because the range is just wild. First, there's the Judean story.
Right, set in 27 CE. It's the story of Jesus Christ, his clashes with the Pharisees, the betrayal, the crucifixion. Pretty standard biblical stuff, but filmed quite powerfully.
And you even get Erich von Stroheim, the future director, popping up as a Pharisee.
Yeah, a little bit of trivia there. Then jump forward centuries.
To the French story, 1572, the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre.
Exactly. Pure religious intolerance, the Catholic persecution of the Protestant Huguenots. Very brutal, very direct depiction of that conflict, with Catherine de' Medici pulling strings.
Okay, story 3 takes us way back. Babylon, 539 BCE.
This is the big spectacle piece. The fall of Belshazzar's city to Cyrus the Great of Persia. And again, religion plays a part, scheming priest undermining the king.
Right. And the 4th one, the modern story, set in 1914.
Yeah, and this is arguably the emotional core. It deals with a factory strike, hypocritical reformers, poverty, and an innocent young worker who gets framed for murder, sentenced to death.
That modern story. It's interesting. Wasn't that originally his own film?
It was. That's a really key point. Griffith had initially made it as a standalone feature called The Mother and the Law.
So why fold it into this huge 4-part thing?
Well, after the huge backlash against The Birth of a Nation and its racism, Griffith felt he needed to make a grand statement about tolerance, to sort of redeem himself. So he took The Mother and the Law, which was ready, and built this massive structure around it.
Ah, okay. But then, didn't he release The Mother and the Law on its own again later?
He did. After Intolerance's initial run didn't go so well, he re-edited the modern section and released it as a separate feature in 1919.
Which kind of suggests maybe that story worked best on its own, emotionally.
It probably did have the most straightforward appeal. But its inclusion in Intolerance was vital for the film's big innovation, the editing.
The parallel editing, right. Cutting between all 4 stories.
Yes, that simultaneous structure. It was meant to unify the theme, to hammer home that this struggle against injustice is constant, it's eternal, as the source says.
Griffith had that quote, didn't he, about the 4 streams?
He did, yeah. He described it poetically, like 4 streams starting separately on a mountain.
Flow peacefully in the beginning, then merge closer and faster, and in the end become one in a final chord of deep emotion.
Exactly. That merging, that intercutting, is what defines the film. It's described as a cinematic fugue.
A fugue, like in music, different melodies playing against each other?
Precisely that idea. But instead of melodies, you have these 4 complex narratives weaving together. And the cutting within scenes gets incredibly fast, sometimes dozens of cuts, just to ramp up the emotion and connect everything.
It sounds incredibly complex to plan, let alone watch.
It was revolutionary. And here's the thing that just, well, it blows my mind every time. Our source points out something stunning.
What's that?
This entire incredibly complex 4-hour epic with 4 interwoven stories, massive sets, thousands of people, was made entirely without a script.
Wait, sorry, without a script. How is that even possible?
I know, it's almost unbelievable.
No script. For something with like 60,000 extras and intricate plot points like the last-minute rescue. How did he keep track? How did anyone know what was going on?
It really speaks to Griffith's, well, his almost dictatorial control and his incredible visual mind. He apparently held the entire structure, all 4 narratives, in his head.
Just in his head, directing from memory.
Seems so. He was essentially composing the film on the fly and then refining it in the editing room. The editing wasn't just connecting shots, it was creating the narrative links.
Wow. Okay, so for audiences in 1916 used to much simpler stories, this must have been completely overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. A real shock to the system. It demanded so much from the viewer, forcing them to connect the dots across centuries.
So it wasn't just the editing. The source says it was like an encyclopedia of cinema techniques.
Yeah, he threw everything in, playing with pacing, contrasting different kinds of scenes, building suspense. He even apparently wanted to change the screen shape for different sequences.
Varying the aspect ratio. In 1916, that's decades ahead of its time.
Exactly. An unfulfilled dream back then. But it shows his thinking. But beyond the editing tricks, you just have to talk about the sheer physical spectacle.
The Babylonian set, right. That thing is legendary.
Oh, yeah. It was built on, 100 hectares just outside Hollywood? Massive walls, like 70 meters high. It wasn't a set. It was practically a city.
You couldn't build that today. Not like that.
Probably not. And the way he filmed it was groundbreaking, too. There's that famous shot.
The one that moves from really high up.
Yeah, exactly. The camera starts with this huge overview of the whole Babylonian complex, hundreds of meters up, showing the scale. Then it smoothly tracks down, 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 right into a close-up of doves pulling a tiny chariot for Belshazzar.
That fluid camera movement, not just cutting. That was new.
Very advanced for the time. Imagine coordinating that, plus the 60,000 extras milling around in those enormous sets.
Mind-boggling. And wasn't there a central image tying it all together?
Yes, the recurring shot of Lily and Gish.
As the mother rocking the cradle.
Right. It appears between the different stories, this image of eternal motherhood. It's meant to be this sort of calm, hopeful anchor amidst all the historical chaos and violence. A symbol of endurance.
Providing a bit of emotional continuity.
Exactly. And all this builds towards the climax, especially in the modern story, that frantic last-minute rescue.
The wife chasing the train with the governor's pardon. Classic Griffith.
Absolutely classic. And that's where the cross-cutting between all 4 stories reaches its absolute peak intensity, everything converging.
Okay, so you have this technical marvel, this huge ambition. Why did it flop so badly at first? The source says critics found it abstract.
Yeah, that was part of it. And some sections just didn't land as well. The Babylonian story, despite the spectacle, felt a bit weaker dramatically to some.
But the main issue is philosophical.
I think so. Griffith had this grand, noble message against intolerance. But the 4 stories were so different times, different contexts, that the overall point felt a bit vague, abstract, like the critics said.
And the captions didn't help, like that final one.
Right, that famous last title card. And perfect love shall bring peace forevermore. It's sincere, but, well, a bit naive, maybe.
A bit simplistic for such a complex film.
Yeah. It highlights that maybe cinema in 1916, even with Griffith's genius, wasn't quite ready to deliver that kind of heavy philosophical argument effectively to a mass audience. The tools were there, but maybe not the narrative maturity yet.
And the timing. The timing was just terrible, wasn't it?
Absolutely disastrous.
Yeah.
Here's this fundamentally pacifist film, preaching peace and universal love.
And it comes out right as America's getting into World War I.
Exactly. The national mood was shifting towards war, patriotism, mobilization. A film about peace felt completely out of step, discordant. Griffith really misjudged the audience's mood, or maybe just overestimated their appetite for such a challenging film at that specific moment.
So it failed financially, critics were puzzled, the timing was wrong, yet here we are talking about it as this landmark.
Because despite all that, its legacy is undeniable. The source calls it a great humanist epic, and it absolutely is. More importantly, it laid down the rules for so much future filmmaking.
It defined the language of cinema, as you said
It
earlier.
really did. And think about this, and you can even see the seeds of later genres in it. The Storming of Babylon sequence has moments of graphic, bloody violence. That's early horror, in a way.
Right. And the source mentions the priestesses.
Yeah, the scenes in the Temple of Ishtar with the costumes and rituals, there's an undercurrent there that hints towards, well, maybe early erotic cinema. It was pushing boundaries everywhere.
So it marks the end of cinema, just figuring things out.
Pretty much. The experimental phase was kind of over. With Intolerance, the new art form showed it had mastered its tools, even if its first attempt at a grand philosophical statement didn't quite connect with its audience. The technique had arrived.
Okay, so the big takeaway for you listening is this. Intolerance, this 1916 film that initially failed, actually became this towering success in terms of influence. Its sheer ambition, the scale, the innovative camera work, and especially that radical editing weaving four stories together like a fugue, created a visual language still fundamental today. It's the ancestor of the modern blockbuster in many ways.
Absolutely. And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over. We know Griffith was obsessed with perfecting this film. He kept tinkering, re-editing, long after it was released. The version we see today needed major reconstruction work decades later.
Right, because the original was kind of lost to revisions.
Exactly. So it makes you wonder, if a film's big idea, its philosophy, is maybe too complex or just clashes too much with the times, does its long-term survival, its artistic legacy, end up resting almost entirely on its technical brilliance, on the director's relentless drive for visual perfection, rather than the message itself?
Does technical mastery guarantee immortality when the message fails? Something to think about.